ever been given the pleasure of choosing your own topic for public speaking? This could be because there's a group of people that so believes in you that they have told you to go ahead and pick a topic for yourself for you to be able to present to them. And many times people are always like, so what topic do I pick? The first basic of public speaking is always getting to know, do I have topics in mind that I can always drop or I can always tell people about if I'm either going to tell people that I'm a public speaker and they ask me for a topic that I can be able to deliver, or if I am approached by any means and I am asked to deliver a certain topic. Always have that at the back of your mind. So anytime you're given the pleasure of picking your own topic, two things you always need to think about: who are my audience, which we already looked at in the first module, and number two, what are my interests? When I talk about your audience, it means your audience can easily dictate the kind of topics that you can talk about. If there are people in an office setting, it's very different from a chama setting or just a community somewhere in the outskirts who need somebody to talk to them. So always ask yourself, who are my audience? And go into the deeper details of asking yourself, what do they do? What do they have in common? Have they come together because of business? Is it a church group? Is it just another kind of friendship group? What kind of group exactly is it? Because again, that gives you clues. What has brought them together could be a topic that you can be able to pick. If they have come together for business, what are the challenges that they are going through? If they have come together just as a community, what are the challenges they are going through? If they're just a group of friends, what are they experiencing in common? Deeper into it, is there something else that they have in common? Do they have families, for example? Do they have children, for example? Do they have something common as far as their profession is concerned? Do they belong to a certain kind of group? They don't have to be necessarily in one category of professional, but is there something similar across board in that industry that they're in? There's so much you can learn about people that can give you ideas in terms of what content you can be able to give them. That's the first thing you look at, your audience. On the flip side, you always want to ask yourself, what are my interests in this? Chances are, if you pick a topic that you have no interest in, you're going to have a very difficult time delivering that topic. For example, because they're a group in a group that is in business, then you decide you're going to talk to them about entrepreneurship. How much of skill do you have in that? How much of interest do you have in that topic? Because if you don't have an interest in it, then you're going to struggle. So just because they're in business, that does not mean you talk about entrepreneurship. You could talk about something else that you're more comfortable about. So think around it, between what your audience are and what you have to offer, what interest you have. So always come up with a list of topics. Once you have understood your group, then come back to yourself. What topics am I comfortable talking about? Then look at the similarities. Where can I be able to find a balance in terms of I achieve the needs of the audience and I get to deliver that which I have interest in? If you find yourself struggling, always go into the details of putting down the notes. Like I have that, because it's a business group, I can talk about entrepreneurship, I can talk about resilience, I can talk about family things. Just think about what it is that you don't talk about. Then under each of those topics, write as much notes as you can. Where you find yourself writing more, it means you have more skills there or you have more interest there. Then in that case, that's closest or your best option when it comes to delivering a topic. So when you have been given the liberty of choosing a topic, then do yourself a favor. Pick something that interests you and something that also interests the audience. That makes it easy for you to deliver and makes it easy for the audience to relate with you. Once you've done that, now you need to get down into the structuring of your speech. This is the most important thing. The difference between speaking and talking, remember, is because speaking is structured, speaking is formal. So you always need to ask yourself, where do I start? That's what we call an introduction. It is the most important part of your speech or presentation, because if you don't get people's interest within the first 1 to 5 minutes, then you have lost them. They measure your credibility within the first 5 minutes. They measure how interesting you are within the first 5 minutes. They measure whether you meet their expectation in the first 5 minutes. So make sure you get it right at the beginning. The worst introduction you can ever have is, this is my name and I'm going to talk to you about entrepreneurship. That's a total fail. So think deeper, think more. You're going to get a lot more in the notes, but always think about it. How about telling them a story about entrepreneurship? How about telling them your personal story about resilience if you're going to talk to them about resilience? Stories are always a good way of starting. How about asking them a question like, how many years have you been in business? What's your biggest challenge in this business? They don't have to answer back depending on the size of your audience, but could be a rhetoric question just to wake them up and make them start thinking. In short, don't start on a low, start on a high, or look for a statistic that can be able to amaze them, something that makes them think like, what you mean that's how things are. Give them something that wakes up their brain. Engage them from the beginning. So think so much about your introduction because it is everything. Then after that, you can now drop down to your content. How many pointers do you need to talk about? The less, the better. You want people to be able to remember your points by the time you walk out of that stage. If you have 20, they're not likely to remember. Keep them to the minimum. 5 is always a good number, so that you can be able to even recap them at the end of it. So the fewer the points you have, the better. So try as much as possible to bring your content together to major points that are very distinct but very well connected, because the more connected the points are, again, the easier it is for you to remember, the easier it is for the audience to remember and flow with it. So make sure that it is very well articulated and it makes a very good flow. And finally, think about your conclusion, because how you leave the stage also counts. They might forget everything else, but many times they remember how you ended it and how you started it. So keep your conclusion again on a high. If you had come to motivate and activate them, remember to tell them that active thing you need them to do. Like, for this reason, vote for me. The last line should be that item you want them to do if it was an activation. If it was just an information, then you could recap the points that you have told them so that they stick in their mind that this is what we have talked about. If it is a way of just motivating them, then you could end it with a good story. We have talked about entrepreneurship, and then out of this, let me give you a story of somebody who done this and succeeded. Don't make it too long because it's a conclusion, but make it very relevant so that it sticks in their mind and they're able to go on with that. So don't edit in a boring way. Find a way of connecting it with your beginning, with your content, and then close it in a way that you have either called them to action, or you have given them a nice story to relate to, or you have given them an inspirational quote that summarizes everything so well. So once you have a topic, always remember that. Good introduction, comprehensive content but very brief, and a very good conclusion. Thank you.